Good morning. We are starting I'm calling to order the House Early Childhood Finance and Policy Division. We'll start by having the clerk take the roll.
Representative Pinto, Chair.
Present.
Representative Kotyza-Witthuhn, Vice Chair. Present. Representative Franson. Representative Bonner. Representative Damuth.
Present.
Representative Heinzman.
I'm here.
Representative Morrison.
Present.
Representative Pryor.
Present.
Representative Wasilek. Present. Representative West, excused.
And we do have a quorum, so we'll first just address the minutes of our meeting of March 5th. May I have a motion to approve those minutes?
Chair, I'll make a motion to approve the minutes with the addition of the year added to the approval of the minutes from the 19th and the 28th.
Oh, thank you for making the motion, Representative Damuth, and then for catching that as well. Any additions or corrections beyond the one that was noted by Representative Damuth? Oh, Representative Damuth, another one.
On the second page with the acronyms added under the testifiers, I don't have notes on that. Is it possible to have those spelled out going forward?
Certainly, we certainly can do that, Representative Damuth. Maybe we'll leave this alone for purposes of these minutes for approval, but then we absolutely should get those
Hey.
spelled out.
Happy Wednesday, you guys. Happy Wednesday. All right, let me go over here.
Not quite sure what's going on there. We're
going to talk about
working on that, I assume. Anyway, Representative Damuth, unless you have those.
We actually, let's see, was it last week?
Representative Damuth, do you, if you have those acronyms right now, we can say, indeed. And yet it's Thursday, so who knows what's going on. If you have those, we can spell them out right now, or else, Representative Damuth, we can note these for now and then make sure to spell them out in the future.
If we could note them, I don't have them.
Okay, yeah, thank you.
you.
Any other additions or corrections? So hearing none, all in favor of approval of the minutes of our meeting of March 5th, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. And we have minutes approved. We were starting a couple minutes late in order to get our technology to work, and we're still working on that. No problem. So members, today we are going to be, we're going to have House File 1 in front of us, and Representative Kotyza-Witthuhn, you can head up there at your convenience. And it's, you should have a piece of paper in your packet that kind of provides a concordance for House File 1 and the delete all to a number of other bills that we've been hearing. It's my intention to focus on Article 3, and I want to provide just some context for that and make sure everybody involved is oriented. That Article 1 of House File 1 relates to prenatal care and is from House File 909, a bill of Representative Morrison's that actually is outside the jurisdiction of the committee and that involves prenatal care. And that bill, I believe, has been heard in Health and Human Services Policy and has moved forward from there. Article 2 is a home visiting bill, House File 1226 by Representative Bonner, and that bill was heard in this committee a couple of weeks ago now. Article 4 relates to early learning, voluntary pre-kindergarten, and school readiness plus, and we will be hearing a bill or bills related to that in the future, in the next week or two, and so we'll certainly have that discussion then. And then Article 5 are a number of bills relating to grants and other support for child care. We heard a couple of those bills, House File 825 and 908, previously in this committee, and we'll hear the other three another time as well. I know that the Jobs Committee had an informational hearing on a couple of those as well. I think actually each one of those bills has had a hearing in other committees, but the three remaining we will hear in our committees as well. So that then leaves us with Article 3. First, Representative Kotyza-Witthuhn, would you like to move the bill to put it in front of us?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yes, I move HF1.
Okay. And to confirm, it's my intention that the bill will be laid over for possible inclusion in the division report, and potentially two, I suppose, to the two committees to report to. You do have a delete all authors amendment, Representative Kotyza-Witthuhn, is that correct?
Yes, Mr. Chair.
And you want to move approval of that?
Yes.
Okay. Any discussion on the motion to get the bill just in the form the author wishes? And no discussion. All in favor of approval of that, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. So we have the bill in the form that the author wishes to have it. Representative Kotyza-Witthuhn, we talked through the other sections, though perhaps you just want to give, just stepping back a second for the broad vision, but then if you can provide whatever statement you wish to about Article 3 as well, and then we can move to your testifiers.
Sure, absolutely. So HF1, the Great Start for All Minnesota Children Act, covers a lot.
Can you pull it close to your mouth? Thanks,
Thank
Representative.
you. My other microphone is closer,
Great.
I guess. So the Great Start for Minnesota Children Act covers a lot of early learning and early childhood investments that we are hoping to make to potentially stem the opportunity gap, as we've been hearing from all sorts of departments through the state and presenters at a variety of levels, making investments in the earliest and most critical time of children's life can potentially change the tide for our children here in the state of Minnesota. So prenatal care, we've already discussed. Home visiting, we've already discussed. Additional investments in CCAP and scholarships, and some increased funding and provider rates for the child care assistant program as well. With our worst in the nation opportunity gaps, it's imperative now that we take bold and bipartisan action this session to close those gaps. Early learning scholarships in particular are a key piece to eliminating these gaps and allowing 2 generations of Minnesotans to survive. Scholarships allow parents with the greatest need to select high-quality childcare that's the best for their family. Parents can select care that meets their family's needs, like full day and full year. Scholarships allow parents to work while their child is receiving care that will enable them for success into kindergarten and beyond. I appreciate the Democrats and Republicans who have joined me to champion scholarships, as well as the diverse coalition of supporters, which includes the Mini Minds Coalition, Minnesota Without Poverty, and People Serving People. I hope that we can continue this work to serve more of our most vulnerable children. If it's all right with you, Mr. Chair, I'd be glad to introduce my first testifier.
Why don't you call have that testifier come up? I should have probably noted before members of the public too, this is a really nice follow-on to the hearing that we had last Friday in St. Cloud. And so many thanks to folks who were able to join, whether in person or via the webcast. That we were hearing about these needs all over the state, and so this is a really nice follow-on to that. But yeah, let's have your first testifier come up.
I'm going to turn it over to Carla Smith, who is a mother, and to share how scholarships have impacted her family. And we're hopeful to share a video at some point today,
Okay.
if the technology works. So
Working on the technology,
yep,
no
you.
problem. Please. And so if you can just identify yourself for the record, and then please feel free to begin.
Hello, my name is Carla Smith. I'm a mother, a former licensed foster care provider, and a current adoptive parent of a 4-year-old. I used the scholarship in many realms over time. I used the scholarship to attend the Child Development Center in North Minneapolis. For Jamal, I rely heavily on community to be included in his positive learning experiences. The center we attend with the scholarship not only nurtures our children, it places value on our children's education by providing learning strategies and setting educational goals for Jamal. When Jamal was 2 years old, my child care center gave me resources to help me be a future-forward-thinking parent, as well as classes that helped me focus on his college education. With the scholarship, I found that a community that focuses on education beyond elementary and secondary. The Child Development Center that he attends, I like to say it's a center that we attend. While he enjoys learning letters and numbers, I'm enjoying being a part of a safe and nurturing environment that looks at my family as an investment in the future. If I did not have a scholarship, Jamal wouldn't have access to education with his peers. Without a scholarship, I would not have access to build a stable living environment for us by working full-time and accomplishing other goals geared towards our elevation. And Jamal wouldn't have access to a strong community bond with the Northside community, which values our children's education. Like the school that he attends, we focus on college, like right now. And while they're helping him focus on that, I'm able to focus on my income, like paying my bills and rent. So these scholarships help. I got Jamal as a foster child, and I ended up adopting him. And through the foster care, I was able to get a scholarship for him. And I now utilize that scholarship to help me take care of him as I work as a full-time working class mom. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your testimony.
Yep.
You have another testifier, Representative Kotyza-Witthuhn?
Yes, I do, Mr. Chair. We're going to be moving into CCAP now. Yes, and just a little bit of an overview for the Child Care Assistance Program. We rank, actually, Minnesota as a state ranks third highest in the United States in cost of childcare at an average of over $14,000 a year for a family. CCAP makes childcare affordable for about 7,000 Minnesota families and over 13,000 children. However, as of this past December, there will be still 2,000 families on that childcare wait list. This means that there are 2,000 Minnesota families with less economic security and hundreds of businesses that may not be able to fill vacancies only because of a lack of childcare. Affordable childcare isn't only important for our economy, it is also a two-generation approach that provides unmatched flexibility to meet the unique needs of each family and allows children to thrive in caring environments. Furthermore, CCAP covers children of all ages and can be used at all times of the day and night. Before I let our next testifiers highlight why CCAP is so important to them, I would like again to thank all of our Democrat and Republican champions for childcare assistance, as well as the support from the Kids Can't Wait Coalition. I'll now turn it over to Kiara Zachary to share a parent perspective on how CCAP has impacted her life. Following her will be Sharice Gabriel, the director of the East Side St. Paul YMCA.
Okay. Ms. Zachary, come on up, and you can introduce yourself once you sit down. And if you can introduce yourself, please, and then feel free to begin.
Hi. My name is Kiara Zachary, Chair and members of the committee. I am a single mother of two, an educator for the Robbinsdale schools as an equity specialist in the Achievement Integration Department, a teacher candidate in the Grow Your Own Teacher program at the University of Minnesota. I am also a core leader in the Kids Count on Us, an initiative of the Isaiah Coalition of almost 200 child care centers statewide. I am here today to testify in support of House File 1's increase to child care assistance. Education is important to me because I come from a long line of educators who taught me with education comes power and opportunities. These opportunities can begin for our youngest Minnesotans as young as 8 weeks old. We know that families with access to quality early childhood education are giving their children an educational head start. Due primarily to affordability, low-income families and families of color don't have this opportunity, and therefore opportunity gaps exist in early childhood education and persist in K-12 and post-secondary as well. Besides providing educational opportunities for kids, access to quality and affordable childcare allows for families to better support themselves. Personally, without receiving childcare assistance, this degree wouldn't have been made possible for me. I was able to find a job that can financially support myself and my children. But it was really difficult for me to keep and maintain child care assistance. I felt like the system was set up for me to fail. The system was not designed for me to be successful. I persisted because I knew that there was no way for me to work and go to school to get a better paying job without access to affordable child care. When I first applied for child care assistance, it was hard to find a center that had openings and accepted county funding. The reimbursement rates are so low that many of the centers that I felt would provide my daughter with the educational head start she needed couldn't afford to run their program with how little they would receive from child care assistance. However, with hard work and dedication, I found a center that my daughter and I both loved. Just a year after securing child care assistance, my daughter started kindergarten and I was no longer in need of full-time care. Due to some bureaucratic miscommunication, I lost CCAP and was put on the wait list for nearly 2 years. Fortunately, my village was able to help me out by moving around their schedules and getting a huge discount from my community-based provider. When I finally did get back on, it was a ton of relief. In the 2 years I was on the wait list, I'd had my second daughter and ended a decade-long relationship with their father. Also, half of my village moved out of state. I had nowhere else to turn for childcare. Putting my kids in a daycare was the only way I would be able to work. Unfortunately, when my youngest started daycare, I had sent in the paperwork, but the reimbursement took so long that I almost lost it again. The provider had to wait almost 3 months. It was incredibly stressful because I had just started my job and moved into an apartment after separating with their father. I had no other option. If I couldn't work, then I couldn't take care of my kids. Ultimately, I had to take a day off work just to sit at the county to see what was going on. I got things figured out, and securing childcare helped stabilize a tumultuous time in my life. Knowing that my kids are safe and being taken care of while I was at work is so critical. Additionally, the opportunities that they are able to access at our center are irreplaceable. My youngest daughter's teacher is phenomenal, but because of the low reimbursement rates, she's not paid enough for the amazing work she does. At home, I wouldn't have thought to teach my 2-year-old how to hold a pencil properly. She's also learning letter recognition, counting, self-help skills. It's definitely a leg up. For my older daughter, it's the social and emotional connection she's made. Her closest friends come from Community Child Care Center. Even after starting different schools, and some of them leaving the center, they are still in contact and see each other regularly. That kind of friendship is life-changing. Funding child care assistance has so many benefits. It creates opportunities for kids and families, for small business owners and their communities. I wouldn't be where I am today without child care being made affordable for me. I know there are so many families and working women like myself that just need the opportunity to stabilize in order to grow so their children can be afforded the same opportunities my daughters and I have. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your testimony. Representative Kotyza-Witthuhn, looks like you have a third testifier.
Yes, Mr. Chair. Sharice Gabriel, the director of the East Side St. Paul YMCA.
Come on up. And if you can, once you get settled in, you can identify yourself and then feel free to begin.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Mr. Chairman and members of the committee.
And ma'am, can I just have you introduce yourself, just identify yourself?
Yes.
Okay.
My name is Sharice Gabriel.
Okay, thank you so much.
I am the director of the St. Paul East Side Early Childhood Learning Center, and I am here on behalf of the YMCA of the Greater Twin Cities. I would like to thank you for the opportunity to testify today in support of increasing CCAP reimbursement and helping families move from the waitlist to quality childcare. I often meet with working mothers and fathers who sit in front of me explaining that they are in desperate need of childcare. They will describe to me how they have finally found a job that can better support their family, but that without childcare for their young children, they would not be able to accept their new employment. I am fortunate to work for an organization that provides scholarships for families to bridge the significant gap between CCAP reimbursement rates and the actual cost of childcare. While this is incredibly helpful and necessary for families, it limits the Y's overall resources. Limiting the Y's overall resources means less dollars to pay qualified teachers, resulting in staffing shortages and further impacting our ability to open more classrooms and increase access to childcare slots. This bill also presents the important and necessary opportunity to address the waitlist for CCAP. It is critically important to get more kids into our quality early childhood programs. All of the children who attend our Y early childhood programs for at least 1 year are better prepared for kindergarten. This bill can ensure that even more kids will be ready for kindergarten. This bill will make a tremendous difference to parents who are anxiously waiting to be told that they have been moved from the wait list to the Child Care Assistance Program. The Y is doing everything that they can for families, but the gap between the actual cost of delivering a high-quality child care program and the current CCAP reimbursement amounts limits our impact. Regularly, I'm faced with explaining to parents that CCAP only covers part of the cost, and regularly I hear from parents that even with the YMCA scholarship, the remaining balance creates a significant burden. Not surprisingly, many of these parents are absolutely floored to learn that despite the fact that they finally got the job that can keep their family stable, despite the fact that they spent days researching options for affordable childcare, despite the fact that assistance was available to them and they could meet the biweekly copay, despite all of this, these working mothers and fathers will still have to dig deeper into their limited resources to find a way to bridge the gap between CCAP reimbursements and the actual cost of childcare. Sadly, many of these conversations end with the parents telling me that they simply cannot make it work. For many of us in this room, we are very fortunate that we cannot imagine the feeling of hopelessness that these parents feel when they finally find a job, learn that they qualify for assistance, and finally have the chance to better their lives, only to find that even with assistance, they still cannot afford childcare. Please vote to increase reimbursement rates and reduce the wait list for CCAP. Please vote to support the working mothers and fathers, and most importantly, our children of Minnesota. Thank you for the opportunity to testify.
Thank you, Ms. Gabriel. Thank you for your work. I have just a couple clarifying questions. It sounds from your testimony like your program uses both the Child Care Assistance Program funding and early learning scholarships and kind of braids them as best you can for individual families. Am I understanding that right?
Thank you for your question, Chairman. What I was referring to was the YMCA's scholarship. Because we are a nonprofit, we are able to use some of our funding to supply scholarships for many of our youth programs, all of our youth programs, as a matter of fact. So parents have the opportunity to apply through the YMCA for its a discount program through the YMCA. So it doesn't 100% cover any of the cost, but you will get a discount from 10 up to 40% off.
Okay. Thank you very much for that clarification. Good. And Representative Kotyza-Witthuhn, then do you have any other testifiers? I think that may be it.
But I have some friends in the audience.
Okay. Well, I was going to say, it looks like you've prioritized parents and Ms. Gabriel, but I know that there's other folks who have expertise who certainly we can call on if the questions go in that direction. Members, I'm inclined, so we have 5 folks who are signed up for public testimony. I suspect there'll be a couple more as well. We could do some questions now, but I'm kind of thinking what we should do is maybe get through the testifiers and then we'll move on. I'm kind of seeing some nods from folks. And then we can ask questions, et cetera. So the first person who signed up is Annette Solomon. I might ask, given timing, if folks can please keep their remarks to 2 minutes, maybe 3, so we can make sure we fit folks in and also get through member questions as well. So if you can please come up, that first person. Oh, pardon me, I guess she's not here, and so we'll bring up Linda Bell as the next person on the list, if she is here. Oh, there we go. Oh, please. And once you get settled in, you can identify yourself, please, for the record, and then please feel free to begin.
Good morning, Chair Pinto and committee members. My name is Linda Bell, Minnesota Advocates and Champions for Children. Nice to be here today with you.
Thank you.
And I want to thank all the testifiers who have come before. Such wonderful stories of how these scholarships have helped you in your lives and giving you the opportunities. It's really wonderful to hear. Well, we have some questions, and I might direct them to the committee or to the author, and just a few concerns. So starting with, I should have brought my bill up, but starting with Article 3, Great Start Fund, I'm reading that the fund consists of money provided by law and any other funds donated, allotted, transferred, or otherwise provided. And so I'm wondering, what is the exact plan for the budget here? I mean, where will these funds be transferred from exactly? We're talking about transferring funds. Is there a plan for this?
And so, Ms. Bell, so you're in the, if you can just, I guess, provide your testimony, you can describe your concerns.
Okay.
Yeah, it's not really a dialogue portion. No, that's okay.
Sorry.
Yeah, but please lay out the questions, and,
Sure.
and folks may choose to pick them up.
All right. And so, you know, if funds are transferred into an account, can they also be transferred out of an account? I mean, it just seemed a little bit unclear to me. Secondly, who is going to be in charge of the Great Start Fund? I'm not sure if I picked up exactly who is in charge of it. Is it the Department of Education, or is it a combination of agency heads, or that wasn't made clear to me. Also, will this fund be audited on a regular basis? Again, just looking for some clarity, and here our organization would bring forth some amending words here to state that an annual audit will be conducted and a report submitted to the legislature on such a fund that sounds like it's going to become large. Then moving on to 4.28, 4.30, and 4.31, we have financial reports, and it says, any report or financial statement required by law. That's how it's laid out right now. I'm wondering what financial statements are required by law right now, because I don't know that information.
You got about a minute left, Ms. Bell.
Okay. And what exactly is the legal requirement right now? We would propose an amendment of an annual financial statement is required by law to be submitted to the legislature and will be made readily available to the public. And again, this is for clarity and transparency. Again, I appreciate the testimony, but as I consider House File 1, it appears to include massive funding for the purpose of not just funding the areas that have been funded in the past, but perhaps even trying to have a run at transforming society while holding out the carrot for free daycare or sliding scale funding for babies, birth to 5, line 21.27, into the public schools. I'd like for us to think for a minute and recognize the special relationship of mothers and their children. Actually, I'm wearing a little necklace that my kids gave me recently. And just to say that moms and children, they have very, very special relationships. They have a special bond. Not to say that fathers and their kids don't have a special relationship too. They do. But the ones that moms and kids have, well, you just can't put a price tag on that. And so no one knows their children better than their parents. No one will love them and protect them more than their parents. And while there are those who need help in these areas, we must remember that the greater percentage of society is still enamored with the beauty and stability of the family. And I would recommend that the committee and Chair Pinto, you consider hitting pause on this bill before going forward.
Thank you so much for your testimony. So we're just at about the 4-minute mark, but I thank you so much for providing it to us. Thank you. So the next testifier is Richard Gehrman. If he can come up, please. Please identify yourself for the record, and then please feel free to begin.
I'm Rich Gehrman. I'm the Executive Director of Safe Passage for Children, and we are an advocacy organization in the child protection foster care arena. We advocate for primarily for improvements to the child protection and foster care system in terms of better training, more resources, and more clear standards, that sort of thing. But increasingly over the past 3 years, we have been advocating with many of you for early learning scholarships and for targeted home visiting services and other related prevention services, because clearly I think the best thing for everybody is if families do not need to get into the child protection system in the first place. And it has many obvious benefits in terms of the families themselves staying intact, and reducing racial disparities and costs and other benefits. So we really are very interested in advocating for these two services in particular, because in the child welfare arena, there just aren't a lot of evidence-based practices that really reduce the length of time people are in child protection or reduce the need for child protection. But these two programs and services, although they are outside the strictly the child protection realm, are the only ones that we are aware of that have good, solid evidence and research showing that they reduce the number of families that get into child protection, depending on the particular service, by 25 to 50%. So that's an enormous pressure that's taken off the system, and many more families that stay intact. And one of the really important features of these two services is that they are voluntary. And we found from our research that we've done with related areas like the Parent Support Outreach Program, that it's really important for families to have and for parents to have a service that they think is a support to them and is a benefit to them, and really helps them. And if it comes as a mandate or as a requirement from the courts or child protection, it's not as well or as easily received. So that's a very important service. And I just want to say the Minnesota...
One minute left, Mr. Gehrman.
Okay. The Minnesota Department of Education has prioritized scholarships in the early learning area, and as of the last 4 children who are in these high-risk categories, including child protection and foster care, and also for children from birth to 3 and not just starting at the age of 4. And about 1,700 plus children, as of the last MDE report, who are in the 0 to 3 age bracket and in these high-risk categories are now getting early learning scholarships. And we think that's going to have a tremendous amount of leverage in terms of reducing child abuse and also reducing costs. You know, from the point of view of child protection and foster care, these are really, really important services. So thank you.
Thank you for your testimony. Our next testifier is Dr. Mark Hudson. If he can make his way up. And sir, as you get settled in, you can introduce yourself for the record, identify yourself, and then feel free to begin.
Good morning. Good morning, Chairman Pinto and members of the committee. My name is Mark Hudson. I'm a child abuse pediatrician. I'm employed at Children's Minnesota, which is the largest healthcare provider in the upper Midwest. I'm the director of the child abuse program called Midwest Children's Resource Center. As a pediatrician, I certainly think there are many portions of this bill that are beneficial to children and certainly supported by my employer, but I want to speak specifically just to sort of the child abuse prevention portion that I think is not necessarily spelled out in the bill, but I know, Chairman Pinto, I know you heard some testimony about this in another committee recently. Child maltreatment. In Minnesota, we lose as many children to child maltreatment as we do to all childhood cancers combined. So we face significant morbidity, significant mortality from child maltreatment. And prevention is the silver bullet, of course. And prevention is what everyone wants. Unfortunately, oftentimes we think, well, we'll just give some money to child protection and tell them to prevent child abuse. And the reality is child abuse prevention is going to need to be broad-based and go beyond sort of the traditional social services systems and child protection system and look at other ways that we support families. One of the things that I see in practice, one of the things that we've certainly identified through the child mortality review process is the lack of access to daycare, the lack of access to safe options. And I think the testifiers this morning spoke about the struggle between needing to work and needing to have someone take care of your child. And unfortunately, in practice, as well as in statistical terms, we see too many families who are forced to make that decision about either not working or leaving their child with someone who's potentially not safe or not an ideal caregiver. And I'll end my testimony there in support of the child care assistance portion of this bill as well.
Thank you so much, Dr. Hudson, and I thank you for your work with Midwest Children's Resource Center. I'm familiar with Dr. Hudson's work in my role as a prosecutor, and we've interacted on that side of things, and that's just incredibly important and difficult work dealing with kids who've experienced trauma and abuse. So thank you so much. Taylor Wickland is the next person on the list, and the last person signed up in advance. And so please identify yourself for the record, and then feel free to begin.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. My name is Taylor Wickland, and I am a current fellow with Quaker Voluntary Service. I'm also a recent graduate from Gustavus Adolphus College, where I spent some significant time, granted undergraduate, studying child welfare policy. I'm here today primarily motivated because I am a survivor of childhood emotional maltreatment. That impacts me today with a diagnosis of PTSD, and also there's pretty good data to show both between adverse childhood experience studies and also developmental trauma studies that my diagnosis associated with the developmental trauma also potentially played a major factor in my activation of my ulcerative colitis that I also have. I'm here today testifying in favor of House File 1, or in support of. And for me, the primary reason is that childhood emotional maltreatment, or just maltreatment in general, piece. We have good data to show that preventative programs like this, specifically the home visiting and the early learning scholarships, actually reduce reports of maltreatment between 25 and 50% in families that do receive these voluntary services. Additionally, I personally am concerned with the racial and ethnic disparities in maternal and infant mortality. I am really concerned with the fact that it looks like for a certain group in this nation that we do have this primary, beautiful, well-working healthcare system, and other groups it looks like an underdeveloped nation for their outcomes. Additionally, I am a former quote-unquote resident of Children's Hospital, and I was also concerned in the last few years seeing those increased rates of children being admitted with preventable illnesses by vaccines. So for all of those reasons, I'm in favor of this bill. Yeah, thank you so much for your time. And also, I would like to take the remainder of my time, if possible, to encourage us all to think about the voices we're not hearing today, the people who are young like me or younger than me, who are unable to testify, the folks who are working, and generally, from my perspective, the folks who are potentially going to be most helped by this bill.
Ms. Wickland, thank you so much for speaking up on their behalf and for your testimony too. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah. And then are there other folks, I'm sure that there are at least a couple who would like to testify. See Ms. Banger, yeah, why don't you come on up and then, okay, and we got another name too. So I have some, please introduce yourself for the record, and then please begin.
My name is Elizabeth Bangert. Okay. A year ago today, I sat in room 200 and I disclosed that I had 3,000 pages of data. I'd really appreciate if people would pay attention to what I'm saying right now around the table. I drove a long way. I've spent over 30 days here. The least people could do is pay attention to what's happening and not have side conversations. This is extremely infuriating. You have a system that is absolutely designed to help families. I am a 4-star parent-aware rated center. This is not a position I want to be in. I absolutely want to help those families. Those families have scholarships in my care, but the system is rigged. Do you know why no one wanted to look at my data? Why I was told to stop compiling it? Because there are chain child care centers who have maltreatment on their record and they didn't lose their 4-star parent-aware rating. There are child care providers who are private who did. Call it like it is. It's a turf war. That's all this is a turf war. You've got people who want money in the public school, and you've got people who want money in the giant chain corporations, and that's why no one cares about us in the middle. No one. No one. Not a single bill is reigning in DHS. Not a single person has called DH up and asked to compile data. Instead, I'm getting targeted, attacked by people by political parties, and I am a conservative. This is unacceptable, what is going on in this state and in this nation, and if you people think that this is not a well-planned attack having to do with big pharma and vaccines, then you better look at the block grant. Because in 2014, the language changed and it removed exemptions for parents. I am vaccine injured. If this is the hill that I die on, then so be it. But I will not watch people be manipulated. I will not watch people be used as political pawns in a game over big pharma and early childhood, which is exactly what this bill is. And you all know it. And if you don't, you know it to some extent. This is unfair. Fix the parent-aware system, or I will find an attorney who will. Because I'm done being targeted. I don't think any of this is funny. I don't. And I'm tired of being left behind. You know what? I am a Christian, and I begged God to pick someone else to do this. I begged him to pick someone else. But he picked me. And even Jesus flipped tables, and you know what it was about? It was about people changing money at a table, and that's exactly what's happening in this state, in this country, and I'm done. Parents deserve choice, and providers deserve to be protected and not beat up by a state agency that no one will hold accountable because they're paid. Look at the jobs of these people who are commissioners. Look what they used to do. The system is rigged. We're expanding programs that Scott Stillman testified. I don't think any of this is funny. None of this is funny. Why do you think it's funny? None of this is funny. There are providers hurting. They have stories. There are people laughing. Gosh, does anyone care anymore about people in this state?
I know. And Ms. Banger, thank you for your testimony. And I wasn't aware of anyone indicating anything funny. I'm looking at Lead Franson as well, and I think we're in agreement on that. That certainly no one is finding that humorous at all. And thank you so much for sharing your experience. Is there someone else? I see a gentleman. Please come in, introduce yourself, identify yourself for the record, and please proceed. And then I'll call up Ms. Solheim, Mary Solheim, to come up after this gentleman. Yeah, thank you. Please, sir, introduce yourself for the record. Begin.
My name is Mark Nippen, retired pediatrician. I wish to emphasize my strong support for House File Number 1 for targeted home visiting and early learning scholarships. Targeted voluntary home visiting can be done in a number of ways and can have an enormous impact by reducing family violence, health problems, improving maternal and child literacy. Literacy is an issue that's coming up more and has been unrecognized as significant. For example, the doula home visitor program for pregnant mothers can greatly increase the success of pregnancy and after delivery needs of at-risk mothers. An exceptional home visitor model is a program out of Chicago called Cure Violence. They reduced murder rates in contracted neighborhoods by 40%. It was also found to dramatically change patterns of violence in the neighborhoods and within families. I have used the home visitor model in a few cases in my past career, resulting in grateful satisfactions from the families to help turn their lives around. Literacy deficits are now being recognized as far more common and with disastrous consequences, including 50% of high school dropouts, teen pregnancies, half the Medicaid moms, 80% juvenile detention kids, and 60% of our prison inmates. As you can see, the societal costs are enormous here. It is a multi-generational problem. Early literacy training of the mother and baby is critical during the first 3 years of life. And for later school success and reduced family violence, there's a connection there. The home visitor model has been shown by organizations like Parents as Teachers out of Missouri as a very effective tool to improve literacy and family success.
Thank you very much for your remarks, Dr. Newpen. And Ms. Solheim, come on up. I'm not sure if I'm saying your name correctly, but maybe you can identify yourself and spell your name for us when you sit down, and then you can feel free to begin.
Good morning. My name is Mary Solheim. You need me to spell it?
Yes, please do.
Okay, S-O-L-H-E-I-M.
There we go. Thank you.
And thank you.
Well, that was an M at the end.
M,
correct?
yeah.
M. All right, there we go. Please begin.
Thank you. I am here this morning as a provider, and I am also a leader with the Kids Count on Us organization, and I'm here to support the increase in the CCAP funds. I've been an educator in Minneapolis, in St. Paul, as a licensed teacher for over 34 years, and I have gone to the child care section. And I've been there for the last 10 years. And what I've seen over the course of that time is a need to provide quality care for kids. I've seen the changes in kids. I've seen the changes that are needed in the people that are present to kids and an increase in skills. I've watched families walk through the doors of our child care, which is located in Maplewood. It's privately owned. The owner has been there for 34 years and has also seen those changes. We've seen parents come in who have been rejected by other child cares, particularly parent-aware programs, who've lost their funds because a child care could not provide for their needs. This increase is extremely important because it does reach kids. And that's what I'm concerned about, is the parents who get a choice to choose where they want to be, to provide a care that is necessary to continue what their lives are doing as well. In those years, I have seen an increase in kids with disabilities, but not an increase in skill that we can acquire from outside that are able to care for what those kids are needing. And these funds that we are asking for an increase for will hopefully provide for those skills in teachers in that early childhood area. We need to have quality teachers as well. So I appreciate you listening, and I'm asking for that increase. Thank you.
Thanks so much for your testimony and for your work for kids.
Thank you.
We've got Caleb Stromquist has provided a name, so if you can come on up. And so if you can please identify yourself as you settle in, and then feel free to begin. Just a reminder, we're keeping folks to 2 to 3 minutes here. And then, yeah, if you can spell your last name too, just make sure for the record.
Caleb Stromquist from District 1A, Roseau.
And can you spell your last name, please, sir?
Stromquist.
Perfect. Thank you. Please begin.
Yes. And thank you, Mr. Chair. Ladies and gentlemen, voting on this bill would be a gross abuse of the power and authority that you've been given by God and by we the people. Bills that remove or encourage removing children from parents during their very early formative years, and bills that allow what could easily become what amounts to a home invasion by a powerful government entity are not the answer. This is one dangerous bill. This bill and those similar, though appearing to be helpful by seeming to address some real needs in Minnesota, would actually infringe on the rights we have long held as parents to make decisions regarding the health, privacy, protection, and education of our children. We need to ensure that these inalienable rights remain in the hands of parents, for we won't get them back again once they're thus relinquished. This bill is very vague in regards to some crucial points. What if you really can't say no? For instance, nowhere in section 123 of this bill do I find the word voluntary or its equivalent, and that is very concerning to me. Your presentation can say voluntary all at once, but when it comes right down to its implementation, if it isn't in the bill itself, and perhaps even if it were, it could well end up not being voluntary. Like with the current motion in the state of Oregon by Governor Kate Brown declaring emergency status on a bill attempting to mandate home visiting. Handouts provided at this meeting are also adopting this sort of language. The wording in this bill and the expansive funding being made available to this program strongly indicate its intention is to provide services to every family in Minnesota, whether these services are wanted or not. We as a people should never make government, education, childcare, home visiting mandatory. In closing, we should never willingly give over control of how we run our homes or raise our children to government-run agencies, nor fund anything that could threaten these freedoms we now hold. The last thing we need is for government to dictate control over more aspects of our lives. Will you heed this warning? Probably not. Yet, that does not diminish our responsibility to speak for freedom's sake, that freedom would not go down without a voice. I implore you as our representatives not to vote in favor of any proposed amendment that would create or accept further expansive funding for home visiting, four-year preschool, or birth to three education through bill passage or acceptance of federal grants or in writing new state grants. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your testimony. Thank you. We've got so another testifier. It looks like maybe we've got the video is what you're gesturing for. Oh, so there is another testifier. Come on up. Sorry, you're behind the column. I couldn't see you. Wasn't sure what that gesturing was about. Please identify yourself for the record and begin. And I think members of the public, I think we're going to be moving after this to there's a video Representative Kotyza-Witthuhn had tried to play before, and I do want to make sure we have time for member questions. But ma'am, please introduce yourself for the record and begin.
My name is Yvette McCarthy.
Okay.
And Yvette is with an E, not a Y.
Oh, there we go. Good.
And I've been in early childhood for over 30 years. I own and direct Sunshine Tree Child Development Center in South Minneapolis. And my family center is the first African-American center in South Minneapolis. I am also a core leader with the Isaiah Kids Count on Us initiative. I do this work because I believe that early education is the right of every child and that early education has a huge impact on kids and the community. I enjoy being a part of the journey and process to mold and train these young minds because our children of color are counted out before they even enter the classroom. Quality education means a culturally responsive and relevant education. It also means paying your staff a livable wage so they can take care of their own families. If CCAP reimbursement rates do not increase, I cannot afford to stay afloat. This will have negative consequences for the kids in my community, and the rate right now is lower than it was in 2011. I have to turn away families who are on CCAP waiting list, and I had parents who had turned away good jobs and opportunities because they did not know or were able to get off the waiting list for CCAP. We must do better for Minnesota's families and kids. I'm here today to ask you to support the increase for child care assistance because it's very much needed. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your testimony. So, members of the public, I think we'll play the video. We've got one more. So why don't you come on up? We'll do that, and then we'll do the video. But then I do think I'd like to cut things off. But please, oh, I'm so sorry. Yeah, I must not have gotten your name. But please, yeah, no problem. Please identify yourself for the record, and then please begin.
Hi, my name is Sandy Hayner, and
can you spell your last name, please?
Hayner.
Thank you so much.
Sure.
Yeah, please begin.
So I am a parent of 4, and I also worked in the education and childcare for 10, 11 years. So I think there's been tons of great testimony about how helpful this program is, and so I am fully in support of that. Let's just put that out there. So this, however, there's some vague language throughout the bill, and some of that I'll just kind of rattle off here. So evidence-based, research-based, empirical-based. I guess I'm wondering whose evidence, whose research, and empirical based on whose value systems. Is it the state or is it the parents? And what happens when a parent and the home visitor have a difference of opinion or values? How do you see that being resolved and in whose favor? I know, but he spoke of home visits too, so I'm going to throw my bid in there as well. What the state determines is best for the child, is that the way that the angle would lean, or is it what the parents would deem best? Other terms like program determined outcomes associated with national organizations. So is that any program, any national organization? That's not really specified. Children are not programs, and as many as you know, one child is not like the other, even within family units. So I had a child in an ECSE programming, and their models did not work for my child. And when I advocated for a plan that was less cookie cutter and more individualized, I was met with great pushback and disdain. Because these support service providers aligned themselves with the state, they also had a righteous arrogance that didn't allow for compromise with me, just a mom. So I had to jump through hoops and spend hours researching what they refused to do in order to help my child. I was told that she wasn't going to be able to speak. I was told she would need an assistive device, and that learning sign language was really our best option. And this was based on what their program-determined outcomes told them. Being just a mom, I fought for my daughter's voice, and without the help of EFSE staff, early childhood special ed staff, I was able to find alternative programs that were not associated with national organizations. And today, that little girl that the program did not anticipate is a bubbly, expressive little chatty Kathy. My concern is that families who are scooped up into this program will have that option taken from them by virtue of needing to comply with the program. Another question I have that is involved in this whole thing is the idea of health equity. And so it reads that every individual has a fair opportunity to attain the individual's full health potential. So I guess my question is, what are the author's definitions of fair opportunity, of full health potential, or what does it mean to be prevented from achieving? How are these things determined? And once again, what happens when there's a disagreement over these vague terms?
And we're almost out of time, Ms. Hayner.
For example, in the last measles outbreak, many Somali families were threatened with having their child care assistance pulled if they didn't immediately get their children up to date with their MMR vaccine, and to even double up, because that was the new recommendation. Their unfamiliarity with the system was used against them. And
Ms.
on
Hayner,
top of that, we have a
we're
child care fraud issue.
Ms. Hayner, hold on. We're just past the 3-minute mark. I guess if you can please wrap up.
Sure. So the legislative auditor will have the report on the child care fraud situation that's happening in Minnesota. That comes out on Wednesday, and so I guess I would just encourage maybe everyone in this room to just hold off until maybe some better stops are put in place to make sure that type of thing isn't happening before we dump a bunch more money into it. And so I'm sure the authors have good intentions in here, and I know that there is a need for child care assistance, and I know that providers need to have that covered. I just worry that the unintended consequences that have not been considered thoroughly, and I urge you to dig into each section and think about the worst case scenarios, and then safeguard parents and providers against that, and make it clear that accepting support services does not mean mandatory shared custody with the state.
Thank you so much, Ms. Hayner, for your testimony. And I should clarify, I said this at the beginning, but the bill will be laid over for possible inclusion in the division report, which will come out in a couple weeks. So there won't be any final decisions made today. Just to make sure that we're clear on that.
Are you guys going to look over the audit then too?
So it'll be in a couple weeks, is what I'm saying. So, and thank you so much, Ms. Hayner. Representative Kotyza-Witthuhn, you had a video I know you had wanted to play before, and then we'll move to member questions. Now, of course, it looks like we lost it on the screen, so hopefully this will pop back on up. And this is going to be part of your earlier presentation, but there was the technology problems that we may be experiencing again. We'll see. Hey, okay.
It would have been a good way to start, and it will be a good way to close. So,
okay.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
All right.
And thank you all for your patience.
Okay, so please proceed with the video.
Alicia and Craig needed an early care and education program for their 2-year-old son, Jaden. Eventually, they found a suitable child care center nearby that offers a nurturing environment for Jaden and is open while they're at work. But it costs nearly $10,000 per year. That's more than a mortgage in most states. Even though they're paying the average price for childcare, it's a financial burden, and now they're expecting a second child. Meanwhile, Jaden's teacher, Sonia, is worrying about how to put food on her own table. Even though she has a bachelor's degree, she earns less than $15 an hour. In fact, more than half of childcare workers and nearly half of preschool and kindergarten teachers reside in families that utilize public assistance. Childcare is complex work that can impact children throughout their lives. Yet Sonia, like many early educators, doesn't receive benefits like health insurance and paid leave. So why do early childhood teachers earn so little when parents pay so much for childcare? There's a flaw in the system. Parent fees alone are not enough to fund quality early education. Let's look at the facts. Parents pay an average of $10,000 annually for center-based care. In certain locations, and depending on the age of the child, the average cost for licensed childcare is even higher. Let's take a closer look at Jaden's Child Care Center. He's one of 40 children attending full-time. Family payments equal $400,000 a year. About 12% goes to rent, utilities, and maintenance. 23% goes for classroom materials, food, and administrative costs. This leaves about $260,000 for personnel. Early care and education is labor-intensive and requires low adult-to-child ratios to ensure quality interactions. Jaden's Center, open 10 hours a day with 40 children and 3 classrooms, needs at least 3 lead teachers, 6 assistant teachers, and 1 director. The remaining money doesn't allow for median salaries, let alone benefits. Parents can't afford to pay. Teachers can't afford to stay. Public investment is the way. We invest in education for older children. Why not for all children? Here's how we can advocate for more public investment in early education programs. Invest in early care and education as other industrialized nations do. If parents are charged, ensure no family pays more than 7% of their income on childcare. Ensure that all teachers have better compensation and workplace support. Those caring for our youngest should at least be paid on par with kindergarten teachers. Question your legislators and candidates about their response to these issues. So let's invest in our teachers and children. Together, we can make it right for children, their families, and their teachers.
Thank you, Representative Kotyza-Witthuhn. So now moving to member questions. Folks have questions, and I'll maybe ask just something to start off. Representative Kotyza-Witthuhn, and you may know this, you may have testifiers who do. There were references to very low CCAP reimbursement rates. My understanding is it's 25th percentile of, it's the 2011 rates, 25th percentile of those rates. So you're getting paid, 1/4 of the cost of what it cost in 2011. Am I saying that right as far as you know, or if you have a testifier who can clarify that, because that seems incredibly low?
As far as I understand it, Mr. Chair, yes, that's correct.
Okay. If you have anybody to look to jump forward, but I think that's, it looks like you got Ms. Poseen coming up. So if you can identify yourself for the record and feel free to answer the question.
Good morning. I'm Lori Poseen with the Department of Human Services and the Child Care Assistance Program. And in this bill, the rates are set at the 75th percentile of the most recent survey.
And Ms. Poseen, I was asking about what the current rates are.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Yes, the current rates are the 25th percentile of the 2011 rates. So I'm sorry for coming up here because that is correct.
So you may be sorry for multiple reasons. So basically, go back to what was being paid 8 years ago, and then cut that in quarters, and that's the payment.
Yeah, I will say the part of that is not completely a good portrayal is that the 25th percentile is not a quarter of the rates. It means that a quarter of the providers at the time surveyed had their rates fully covered.
That's a very helpful clarification. Thank you. Yeah. I've misunderstood that up until now, so thank you for fixing that. Okay, good. And thank you so much, Ms. Poseen. Thank you. Yeah. Other questions the folks have? Representative Pryor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And my understanding as we look at this is that when we're talking about these rates being too low, that it's hard to find a provider that can accept and actually make ends meet with these kinds of rates. My understanding is that's across the whole state. And I guess I've seen some numbers like a city like Austin, they're 900 spots short of child care positions. And so that, because there's not funding for it, and that video that we just watched kind of personifies that, what the gap is between the need and the ability to pay and the ability of a provider to actually afford to be able to do this work. So do we have any more concrete information about how, if we pass this, how this would impact not just a certain part of the state, but all of the state?
Representative Kotyza-Witthuhn.
Thank you, Representative Pryor. That's a great question. I don't have any data on how many more slots this could potentially open up across the state. My goal, obviously, is to make sure that we're able to impact the access for children here in the metro, in the suburban areas across the state of Minnesota, and rural areas as well. And I know that we've discussed in a variety of different hearings the need across the state. So if we are able to encourage and facilitate payment through CCAP or scholarships for private providers as well as child care centers across the state, it's my hope that more people would be able to succeed in business and opening this and help families all around Minnesota.
Representative Pryor.
Right. Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I know that we probably have heard the data, and it's probably in my folder someplace that I saved to look at what this gap is across the state. And so, but I guess I'm just left with that big picture, which is just like that video just showed, that we have a crisis going on right now, and that, as your testifiers have very succinctly articulated, is that it's also a gap that is hurting us in our workforce. Because if you don't have some place to take your child, that that child will be safe and taken care of and protected and actually cared for in a way that develops them, that you can't think about getting a job. And you can't think about advancing your own future. It's you or the child, and that's a choice that no parent should have to make.
And I should note, that kind of follows on the presentations from Friday in St. Cloud about the impact on parents, but then on employers and then on economic development, that there's a lot of folks who are not able to take jobs because they can't find childcare and aren't able to afford it, et cetera. And then we had the presentation of Jerry Cutts from First Children's Finance showing just the national study that actually there's this massive funding gap that just relying, as the video showed, relying on parental fees alone just doesn't cut it. So thank you, Representative Pryor. Representative Morrison's next, and I've got Representative Heitzman after that, Representative Damuth. So Representative Morrison.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm wondering if Dr. Hudson could return to the testifiers table for a question.
Good morning.
Good morning. A couple or several, I think, of the testifiers referred to evidence-based practices, both in positive and negative terms this morning, and I'm wondering if, as a physician, you could describe what evidence-based practice is. And then also, I think that it was pretty shocking for most of us to learn that we lose more children to child maltreatment than we do to childhood cancers. And I'm wondering if you could elaborate more about how some of the programs that are being proposed this morning might impact that.
Dr. Hudson.
Sure. Wow. That was a tough question. I'm not sure I'm going to be able to give the textbook answer on the evidence-based practice. And I certainly speak to that from a medical standpoint. We talk about evidence-based practice based upon, there are levels of evidence based upon the quality of the study. In medicine, we talk about like a double-blinded study being a gold standard study. For some of the areas within medicine and outside of medicine, there's certainly the ability to do a double-blinded study is not available. And then there are sort of lower levels of evidence, going all the way down to sort of a case report. I mean, gee, I saw this, must be true. And then there is kind of integration of sort of the replicability. So has that study been repeated one time, more than one time, et cetera. And there are certainly organizations that really focus on reviewing evidence-based around different programs. I know, like for home visiting programs, the Health and Human Services has a review process to sort of parse out the evidence to support different outcomes of different home visiting programs that's available. I know as we look at sort of the Family First National work, or is it Family First? I might be screwing up the name, and the focus on evidence-based interventions often relies on clearinghouses or organizations that review that. And then people speak about evidence-informed as well, meaning the evidence doesn't necessarily prove that this is right, but we see a trend in that direction. That's the best I'm going to do off the top of my head. Okay. And there may be others in the audience that are much better.
Representative Morrison, follow-up question.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. That was a very complete answer and way more than I was looking for. Thank you. Well done as a physician. I was getting more to, there was sort of an implication that there's an agenda behind evidence-based practices, and I was hoping that you could describe for us that it actually attempts to do the opposite of that.
I guess that is definitely the shorthand answer. That the role between all of those processes, or the outcome of all of those processes that I spoke about, is really to try to get away from some of those biases that may be driving decisions, whether it be treatment, policy, et cetera. And then I think you asked about mortality data.
Thank you, Dr. Hudson. And Representative Morrison, hold on.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. If you are able to say more about how some of what's being proposed today may impact child maltreatment.
Sure.
Dr. Hudson.
Thank you, sorry. Yes, certainly I spoke about child care assistance, and certainly would point to sort of personal experience around that, as I mentioned in my testimony, as well as some of the data we have from our Minnesota Child Mortality Review Panel, and looking at the number of children who are injured or killed as a result being in caregivers that are sort of not parents and also not licensed facilities or paid childcare providers, and much of that comes from, I think, families forced to make those decisions that some of our testifiers spoke about earlier. Within the bill also is some of the other testifiers mentioned the home visiting programs. And when we look at child abuse prevention strategies, really there's not a great silver bullet strategy out there. There's not one thing that's going to do this. But when we look across the board at sort of different programs that have had some efficacy around child abuse prevention, certainly home visiting nursing is one of those programs that has generally positive outcomes.
Dr. Hudson, thank you. Representative Morrison, I think I want to move on if that's okay. But thank you. So Representative Heinzman was next.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Oh, or it sounds like Representative Franson may have if Representative Heinzman's okay, it sounds like she may have a quick question as long as the doctor's up there. So Representative Franson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, for indulging me.
Sure.
You had mentioned the infant mortality rate, child mortality rate, abuse rate, children being killed not with their caregiver or child care provider, but with somebody else that parent is forced to take care of their child. That's a pretty bold statement. So I am wondering if you can provide the body with the data that pertains just to Minnesota.
Yeah,
Dr. Hudson.
I can pull that out of the mortality review panel. I don't have it at the tips of my fingers, but.
Ben, please do provide that, Dr. Hudson. That'd be helpful. Thank you. Okay, Representative Heinzman.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So, to the bill author, we're, of course, over the last few weeks, we're hearing a lot of conversation around the OLA report that's forthcoming. And I was hoping that as we're making our way through this process, that it wouldn't just be this side of the table working on this issue. And I'm hoping that we are together on making sure that fraud is something that we're working and doing everything we can do to avoid. But I would like some clarification because I'm looking at Article 3, Section 26, and I'm looking under Administrative Review 19.29, and my expectation is that our goal is to reduce fraud and abuse in a system, and those bad actors would be given the push away from being able to access taxpayer dollars. And under this section, Administrative Review, I see that some of these providers who have been denied, or I guess suspended, payment is suspended under Chapter 245E, have this right of administrative review. And I'm wondering if the author has looked specifically at this section 119B on line 20.1 and read some of the provisions that are, I guess, available to those that have been denied payment.
Representative Heinzman and Representative Kotyza-Witthuhn, I suspect that this may relate to federal conformity. One thing that Representative Kotyza-Witthuhn you had not talked about, I don't think so much, is that part of Article 3 is providing conformity to federal regulations. We've been out of conformity, and I wonder if the section that Representative Heinzman is referencing relates to that. But I'll let you indicate that, or then you have a testifier may be able to help provide some context for that as well. Or if there's someone who does know assist, but Representative Kotyza-Witthuhn.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair, and I appreciate the question, Representative Heinzman. Yes, so Article 3, Section 26 does fall under the CCAP conformity. So that Mr. Burrs helped us immensely wrapping in many of the conformity issues and some of the other bills that we've already heard in committee so far this session into HF1. So it's updated as much as possible.
Representative Kotyza-Witthuhn, do you have, is there someone, you have a testifier who can maybe provide more context for that specific section as to Representative Heinzman's question? Not sure if there's a testifier here who's Because I guess I would suspect Representative Heinzman would say, well, just because it has to do with federal conformity doesn't mean that it's a good thing. You probably want some context and explanation, Representative Heinzman. I'm guessing. I'm seeing some nodding. Right. So yeah, okay, good. All right. Well, we'll cut right to the chase then.
Certainly, Ms. Poseen, do you join me?
Okay.
Thank you.
So please again identify yourself, and then if you can provide that context for that section.
Yes, I'm Lori Poseen with the Department of Human Services. And this section is federal conformity. We wrote it as a means to achieve a formal dispute resolution process, which is required in federal law. And right now, when a provider has their payments turned off for CCAP, they don't have a right to a fair hearing process. And so this simply gives that to them so that if there is evidence that they want to present, it might fall in between the situations where where fraud is being pursued, and that the time in between when evidence is found as to when a decision is made to move forward. This allows, again, let's say a provider who doesn't keep proper attendance records, they can right now have their CCAP payment turned off, and this allows them to, again, have a means to have a third party hear their situation and determine if that action was taken appropriately.
Representative Heinzman.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. One of the comments I picked up in that was, and I appreciate you're trying to work on this with us, was that we wrote this, and so I guess I would like to just kind of read what we're looking at so the public has an idea under this section what we're actually doing. So on line 20.1, under section 119B.13, subdivision 6, paragraph D, if anybody's following at home, this would allow a provider the right to review if their payment has been suspended, even if the provider admits to intentionally giving the county false information. It would also allow providers that have submitted false attendance reports or refuses to provide documentation of the child's attendance upon request, or the provider gives false child care price information. Those folks that have defrauded the state of Minnesota, the taxpayer, have the right. And here it says in that first number one, that first sentence I read, the provider admits to intentionally giving the county false information. They have a right to a review process that costs the taxpayer even more money. Why are we required to do that? Is that really something that the federal government is requiring? But I heard you say we wrote this, and I want to make sure that we're doing everything we can as a state of Minnesota to avoid fraud and abuse.
Ms. Poseen or Representative Kotyza-Witthuhn, if you can describe what the federal requirement was, please.
Mr. Chair, Representative, I think the best way to describe this is, again, the federal law does require some means of a provider having a chance to argue their case. And at the state level, besides going to district court. And so this simply affords an opportunity, because what happens right now is that if in an investigation or simply in the course of a county doing business or the state OIG's office doing business with a provider, they admit to intent, but they still would just have a chance to present their evidence as to, they might have a reason to explain what happened, and this simply gives them a chance for another party, a fair hearing judge, to look at why that county took the action, why the OIG took the action, and have someone else determine if that action was taken appropriately. In other words, were the policies followed that were intended to be followed? Just so that if again, a worker takes an action, did they do it appropriately?
And I want to make sure we're to confirm, so there will be a report coming out, as Representative Heinzman referenced, just so members of the public are aware. When he said OLA, it's the Office of Legislative Auditor. There'll be a report coming out next Wednesday relating to the program integrity of CCAP. And And so at that time, we'll get additional information to be able to address this issue and certainly have a further conversation then. And of course, this language is being laid over in Representative Heinzman and others, as you see concerns in this article before it comes out in division report. Let's definitely focus in on it. But Representative Heinzman, I'll let you finish up. I know we've got Representative Demuth as well, if you have anything else.
Mr. Chair,
certainly.
I'm going to try to be as absolutely crystal clear as possible to the bill author and the testifier. Are we absolutely required, in order to be eligible for federal money, to have this section in our statute that would allow people that have intentionally given the county false information access to another process that costs the taxpayer more money? Is this necessary? No question. I mean, obviously there's going to be a lot of people, not just myself, looking to determine that. Do we know that this is necessary?
Ms. Poseen.
Mr. Chair, Representative Heinzman, that's a fair question, and this is Minnesota's attempt to meet what we believe the federal requirement is. These words and this method are not required. It's the method that we determined would be a dispute resolution process that doesn't involve, that allows not the person who decided to take the action, but someone else to look at the evidence and decide if the action was taken appropriately.
Representative, sounds like there's some looking to be done at this before it ends up being finalized.
Looks like
based
there's
on your
a lot
questions.
of looking to
Lots
be done
of
right
looking,
here.
maybe some more than looking. Okay,
And
good.
Mr. Chair, just a comment.
Yeah, Representative Heinzman, please.
Thank you. I feel like we haven't been loud enough, and I don't know, it doesn't make any sense, because I feel like we've been talking about this for months and longer beyond that. What have we done wrong that folks don't understand? This kind of thing is absolutely inappropriate. This cannot be in the language going forward. We cannot be giving people who have admitted to intentionally falsifying information, we cannot be giving them further access to a system that is going to cost the taxpayer more money. So I would hope that the bill author and the majority in the House of Representatives would be looking at these kind of things very closely and saying, absolutely not, it shouldn't even be part of the discussion. That's my rant for the day, I guess, Mr.
No,
Chair.
that's, thank you, Representative Heinzman. Thank you for that. Representative Demuth.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Representative Kotyza-Witthuhn, a lot of work. Thank you. A question for you. I am on page 21, and you provide a good cause exemption that allows the commissioner to not deny, revoke, or suspend provider's authorization if this would not be in the best interest of the program. Can you clarify what you mean by program?
Representative Kotyza-Witthuhn, if you know, you may, well, Representative Kotyza-Witthuhn, and feel free to call on somebody if you need to.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you for the question, Representative Demuth. I'm just quickly going to review the section that you're talking about.
Yep. I'm on 21.10.
And Representative Kotyza-Witthuhn, I assume this is part of the federal conformity as well.
Yes, it still is.
Yeah. Of which there is plenty.
I guess to clarify a little bit more, do
Representative
you mean
Demuth.
program offered by the specific provider or the child care assistance program in general?
Representative Kotyza-Witthuhn.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. It would be my understanding that it would be the program in general. But we can potentially clarify, Ms. Poseen.
Ms. Poseen, are you able to help clarify this point? Otherwise, it's certainly something that we should get clarified.
I'm sorry, I am needing to read the whole context of this entire paragraph. And
Given time, if it's okay with Representative Demuth, maybe that's something that you can make sure to get back to her on. Representative Demuth, you have a follow-up? I know we got Representative Franson too. I want to make sure but Representative Demuth.
If you could provide that to the body, that would be great.
Please do. Good, thank you.
Can I just ask
Demuth,
one
yeah,
more?
Representative Demuth.
Yep. Second, are you suggesting that the best interest of the program then outweighs the best interest of the taxpayers?
Representative Kotyza-Witthuhn, or you may be following a friend on this?
I am not attempting to suggest that.
Okay. Thank you for the clarification.
Yeah. And then Representative Franson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Representative Kotyza-Witthuhn. So I've read the original bill, the House File 1, and then I read the delete all. There is nothing in here that addresses fraud in the child care assistance program at all. I have a lot of bills addressing this. My colleagues have a lot of bills, including Representative Heinzman. I think Representative Muth, you have one as well, or a couple. Do you believe that the current consequences on provider fraud are enough, the current consequences are enough to deter both criminal activity and give the program some credibility? Do you believe the current processes in place are enough to deter criminal activity and fraud within the child care assistance program, and perhaps that's why it's not included in this massive bill?
And of course, we're going to be getting a lot of information on that very soon. But yeah, Representative Kotyza-Witthuhn.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Representative Franson. I think what we attempted to do with the delete all was incorporate some of the bills that we've already heard so far in committee. And so I know Chair Pinto is doing his due diligence, waiting so that we can discuss the program integrity after the OLA report comes out. So it's certainly our intention, and to go back to Representative Heinzman's statement, certainly not just your side of the table. We're very concerned about program integrity. We want to make sure that every dollar of CCAP goes to families that need childcare. I think before we address anything related to the program integrity, we want to see the results of that report. Really important to me that we don't starve critical resources from, I might go out on a limb and say upwards of 90% of families and providers who are doing the right thing because of the 10% who might not be, and certainly we'll be able to see the results of the report and go off of better statistics and continue on from there. But I hope that covers it and assures you that we are going to be incorporating some of those things based on the results of the report.
In the meantime, I think that's just not the focus of this in the meantime, but certainly coming. But Representative Franson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I would add to that, Representative Kotyza-Witthuhn, that fraud is actually starving the critical resources within that program. Okay, when the program is defrauded and used incorrectly, it takes away precious resources from families who truly need it, and hurts the entire program integrity. There is also no fiscal note. I did have a sidebar conversation with Mr. Berg here, and so there was a fiscal note requested for House File 1 originally, right? And then it was scrapped due to the delete all. And I am wondering, just out of curiosity, Mr. Chair, do you happen to know off the top of your head, like what House File, the original House File 1, what the fiscal note would have been? I know it was scrapped, but do you have a dollar amount, how much this would have cost the taxpayers? And then the delete all, what that current cost to the taxpayers is, so we have something to gauge by. I mean, it's really hard to, we're just trying to figure this out. There's also, I don't know how much funding is needed to provide scholarships to all eligible children, birth to 3, the CCAP. I mean, just taxpayers are asking these questions. And
certainly, Representative Franson. So the scholarships, for example, you'll note on lines 26.1, 26.2 that it's simply a blank appropriation. So obviously until those numbers are filled in, we can't know the cost, right? So that's so each of these pieces, the Article 4, the School Readiness Plus, and again we'll talk about that in a future week. So kind of each of these pieces kind of needs to be added up in that way. The big cost component of this is the CCAP, federal conformity, et cetera. I know that we've made a request for fiscal note for that as this has come out. But in any case, so no, I mean this is a moving process, and as you know, Representative Franson, the plan then is to incorporate some portion of this into a division report, but that's going to depend on budget targets that'll be out on March 25th, and so that obviously will greatly control how much the committee is able to spend on this at all. So, Representative Franson.
Okay, and I'm glad that you added the budget, that you're waiting for those budget target numbers. Do you anticipate using the current quote-unquote surplus to pay for this, or is it fair to say that it's possible tax increases would be used to pay for this?
So this isn't quite the right, but you've gone somewhat above my pay grade in a sense, Representative Franson, in the sense that our Ways and Means, the leadership and Ways and Means, et cetera, sets budget targets for each of the areas. And actually, we're down several levels because education and HHS are going to get budget targets, and of course, we get portions of those. How that budget picture ends up being put together is a decision that leadership and then, of course, all of us weigh in on. And so in that way, we'll have to see. All I know is that supporting young kids and families is a top priority of the caucus, of me individually, of I would hope the body, and indeed the whole state. Getting kids off to a great start benefits every one of us, benefits them, benefits employers and families and communities and all of us. And so exactly how that ends up working out, all I know is that that's a top priority that I'm going to be pushing for as hard as I possibly can. I will give you the last word, Representative Franson. I know we're a couple minutes over, but it looks like you may have something you want to add, or maybe not.
No, I just want to say for those that are concerned about this legislation that, you know, I stand with them. No parent should be put in the position of you know, government threatening coercion if they want to continue having some sort of parental rights. I heard a lot of discussion regarding that, and, you know, parents are the primary caregiver, not the government.
Thank you, Representative Franson. And I should have actually, so you get the last word compared to me, but Representative Kotyza gets the very last word because it is her bill. So Representative Kotyza-Witthuhn.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So I am a parent. I have 3 small children. I agree with what you're saying. And I think that this bill is a work in progress. It's certainly not perfect in any means, and we still have some time to, with the results of the OLA report, with our budgetary targets, we are going to be able to make some good progress, not only on this piece of legislation, but for the families and the children in the state of Minnesota. And I thank you all for your support and for your input.
All right, thank you very much, Representative Kotyza-Witthuhn. With that, I'll lay House File 1 over for possible inclusion. And I thank the members, I thank the testifiers, members of the public. Thank you very much. We are adjourned.